Amaram. Okay, so we continue from chapter 18, Devotional Service, the Final Perfection. Text 43. Okay, Hare Krishna. Jnana Vairagya Yuktena Bhakti Yogena Yoginaha Kshemaya Padamulam Me Pravishantya Bhavishantya Kuto Bayam. Oh, Hare Krishna Param Prabhu. Yes, no problem. Ribo. Translation. The yogis, equipped with transcendental knowledge and renunciation and engaged in devotional service for their eternal benefit, take shelter at my lotus feet, and since I am the Lord, they are thus liable to enter into the kingdom of God without fear. Purport. One who wants to be liberated from the entanglement of this material world and go back home, back to Godhead, is actually a mystic yogi. The words explicitly used here are yuktena, bhakti yogena. Those yogis or mystics who engage in devotional service are first-class yogis. They are described in Bhagavad Gita as constantly thinking of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. These yogis are not without knowledge and renunciation. To become a bhakti yogi means to automatically attain knowledge and renunciation. That is the consequent result of bhakti yoga. In the Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 2nd chapter, it is also confirmed that one who engages in devotional service of Vasudeva, Krishna, has complete transcendental knowledge and renunciation. And there is no further explanation for these attainments. Ahaituki, without reason, they come. Even if a person is completely illiterate, the transcendental knowledge of the scriptures is revealed unto him because of his devotion. To anyone who has full faith in the Supreme Person of Godhead and spiritual master, all the import of the Vedic literature is revealed. One doesn't have to seek separately. The yogis who engage in devotional service are full in knowledge and renunciation. If there is a lack of knowledge and renunciation, it is to be understood that one is not engaged in devotional service. The conclusion is that one cannot be sure of entrance in the spiritual realm, in either the impersonal Brahmajyoti effulgence or the Lord or the Vaikuntha planets within that Brahman effulgence. Unless he is surrendered under the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. The surrendered souls are called Akutobaya. They are doubtless and fearless, and their entrance into the spiritual kingdom is guaranteed. Hare Krishna.
Devotional service is the most important because there is danger in every step in this material world. At any moment, our life can be finished. We may be walking along very nicely, but at some moment, we may slip and break our neck. Therefore, this planet is called Mrityaloka, the planet of death, the place where death is certainty. Regardless of how strong or healthy one may be, one cannot avoid death. One may exercise on the beach daily, but one may die at any moment. There's no guarantee. Everyone wants to be healthy, and everyone wants health and security, but actually, there's no security. There's simply a struggle for existence, and people are struggling for security. But in reality, this is all foolishness. People are always fearful because they have forgotten or rejected Krishna. This is directly talking about my past. I used to be a gym head. We used to be in the gym all the time. We have forgotten. We have forgotten that we are Krishna's eternal servants, his eternal part and parcel. We have a most intimate relationship with him. The material world, we are situated in a sat, a non-permanent situation. When a child has lost his father and mother, he's always in a fearful condition. He cries in the streets, "Where's my father? Where's my mother?" If we no longer want to be in such a fearful condition, we have to take shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna. Krishna is begging us to come to him because we're all his sons. He always says, "You're rotting here by repeatedly committing sins. You're changing from one body to another, and you're thinking that you're a human being, an American, that is this or that. The next moment you may become a dog or an insect. People are always thinking that they're secure, and this is called Maya, illusion. Knowledge, jnana, means understanding our relationship with Krishna. A wise man asks, what is my duty to Krishna? And once he understands our relationship with Krishna and our duty with him, we naturally become reluctant to engage in material activities. This is called vairagya, detachment, detachment from material desires. Jnana and vairagya can be awakened by bhakti. Bhakti means surrender unto Krishna. Without surrendering to Krishna, we cannot understand our situation. Krishna reserves the right of not being exposed to fools and rascals. He is simply meant for the devotees. We cannot understand Krishna without becoming his devotees. Without becoming devotees. Hmm. Mm. Material life means sex. People work hard all day in order to have little sex at night. The material world, everyone is suffering from the sharp arrow of Cupid, Mandana. Cupid shoots his arrows into men and women to make them mad after one another. However, when one actually sees Krishna, he sees Madan Mohana, the charmer of Cupid. When Then one is no longer pierced by Cupid's arrows. This means that one actually becomes fearless. One can enter into the bhakti yoga and renounce this material world. According to Sastras, there is Shreyas and Preyas. Shreyas is the ultimate goal. We should act in such a way the ultimate we should act in such a way that ultimately we will become happy. However, if we want immediate happiness and disregard the future, we want prayas. Prayas is for the unintelligent and unintelligent people and children. A child enjoys play all day. He does not want to be sent to school to be educated. Education is strayas. Ultimate goal. No one is interested in this. The sastras instruct us to aim for strayas and not to be captivated by prayas. The supreme strayas is bhakti yoga. In the material world, we're struggling for existence with the hope that someday in the future we'll be happy. Yet we're bewildered. An animal in the desert sees a mirage, a shadow of water. He runs after it. The shadow again after again. Sorry. He runs after this shadow again and again. He runs further and further. And, and in this way, he crosses the hot sands and becomes more and more thirsty. And finally, he dies. Our struggle for existence is like this. We're thinking, let me go further. There will be water eventually. There will be eventually happiness. Yet, there's no water in the desert. Those who are unintelligent, who are like animals, seek happiness in the desert of the material world. And thus, false attachment has to be given up by process of bhakti yoga because this must be taken up every very seriously, not artificially. Krishna, in all seriousness, wants to see whether one is finished with his material desires. When Krishna sees this, he is very pleased. We we are actually busy with dharma, artha, karma, moksha. But when we transcend these bhakti begin. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I heard Punjab Prabhu is a very nice narrator.
Yes, Prabhu, I saw Pranjal Prabhu lifted his hand and wanted to read. Haribol.
Oh, no way. Yes, able. Yes.
Oh, Pranjal Prabhu's mic is probably broken.
No, he's just drinking some water. He got warm up his throat, you know?
Yes, Prabhu. Okay, Hare Krishna. If we study the history of the world, we see that it is simply a history of struggle. Mankind attempts to relieve its miserable condition, but it simply brings about another miserable condition. As we try to overcome one problem, another problem arises. Our determination to renounce our association with this material world is called mukti. Mukti means coming to the spiritual platform. Since we belong to the spiritual atmosphere, it is impossible for us to be happy in the material atmosphere. If a land animal is placed in water, he will simply struggle for existence despite being an expert swimmer. We have come into this material world to gratify our senses, but our attempts will never be successful. If we actually want to attain a state beyond fear, we have to accept this bhakti yoga process enunciated by Lord Kapila Deva. एतावन् एव लोकेऽस्मिन् पुंसं निःश्रेयः सोदया तीव्रेण भक्तियोगेन मनोमायि अर्पितं स्थिरम्. Translation. Therefore, persons whose minds are fixed on the Lord engage in that intensive practice of devotional service. That is the only means to attain the final perfection of life. Purport. Here the words mano mayarpitam, which mean the mind being fixed on me, are significant. One should fix his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna or his incarnation. To be fixed steadily in that freedom is the way of liberation. Ambarisha Maharaj is an example. He fixed his mind on the lotus feet of the Lord. He spoke only on the pastimes of the Lord. He smelled only the flowers and tulasi offered to the Lord. He walked only to the temple of the Lord. He engaged his hands in cleansing the temple. He engaged his tongue in tasting the foodstuff offered to the Lord. And he engaged his ears in hearing the great pastimes of the Lord. In this way, all his senses were engaged. First of all, the mind should be engaged at the lotus feet of the Lord, very steadily and naturally, because the mind is the master of the senses. When the mind is engaged, all the senses are engaged. That is Bhakti Yoga. Yoga means controlling the senses. The senses cannot be controlled in the proper sense of the term. They are always agitated. This is true also with a child. How long can he be forced to sit down silently? It is not possible. Even Arjuna said, Chanchalam hi manah Krishna. The mind is always agitated. The best course is to fix the mind on the lotus feet of the Lord. Mano mayarpitam stiram. If one seriously engages in Krishna consciousness, that is the highest perfectional stage. All Krishna conscious activities are on the highest perfectional level of human life. This verse marks the conclusion of Bhakti Yoga as described by Lord Kapila Deva to his mother. Bhakti Yoga is the business of one advanced in Jnana Vairagya, knowledge and renunciation. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya has explained Bhakti Yoga as Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga begins when we accept Krishna's instructions. Sarva Dharmam Parijagya Mamekam Sharanam Raja. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. Bhagavad Gita 1866. We have to renounce all material engagements and accept the lotus feet of Krishna. We are making one plan after another to be happy in this material world, but this place is certified by the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Dukkhalayam Ashashvadam, a place of misery. This material world is actually meant for misery, just as a prison house is meant for punishment. Once we attain our constitutional position of Brahma Bhuta, we can enter the kingdom of God, the spiritual world. By Karma Yoga, we attempt to get out of the gross body, and by Jnana Yoga, we attempt to get out of the subtle body. But by Bhakti Yoga, we can directly transcend both the subtle body, mind, intelligence, and ego, and the gross material body. Then we can be situated on the spiritual platform in our original spiritual body. As long as we are in the subtle and gross bodies, we are suffering under the three modes of material nature. Once we enter into the devotional service of the Lord, we are immediately situated on the platform of Brahma Bhuta. Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, is simply theoretical knowledge, but when one actually renders devotional service, one is situated in the practical knowledge. Then one is no longer on the material platform, but on the Brahma platform. Prahlad Maharaj rendered the best service to his father, Hiranyakashipu, by having him killed by Lord Nrsimhadev. Superficially, it appeared that Prahlad Maharaj did not help his father, but this was not the case. In the Shastras, it is said that if a person, even though a demon, is killed by God, he is immediately liberated. Prahlad Maharaj was thinking, my father is so sinful and so much opposed to God consciousness that he might not be liberated. After Lord Nrsimha killed Hiranyakashipu, Prahlad Maharaj told the Lord, my dear Lord, may I ask one thing from you? My father was a great atheist, and he committed many offenses at your lotus feet. Now you have killed him. I request that he be excused and he be given liberation. Actually, Hiranyakashipu was already liberated, yet his affectionate son was anxious to know whether he was liberated or not. It is confirmed by the Lord that not only does a Vaishnava's father, but everyone for 21 generations before a Vaishnava receives liberation. Thus, by serving the Lord, one renders the best service to his family, because 21 generations are liberated if one becomes a pure Vaishnava. The yogi's real business is to focus his mind on Krishna. That is the real yoga system. There are many gymnastics performed by yogis, but all this is recommended for those who are overly concerned with the body. Rendering service to Krishna 24 hours daily is called Bhakti Yoga, and that is real Samadhi. People are working hard day and night to enjoy some results. A person in Bhakti Yoga works hard day and night but offers the results to Krishna. There is a great difference between a Bhakti Yogi and ordinary karmi. Ordinary karmis cannot understand that the bhaktas are on the transcendental platform. As we have stated before, there are innumerable forms of God, Rama, Nrsimha, Varaha, Krishna, Kapila Dev, Balaram, and so on. Sometimes foolish people ask, you are worshipping Krishna, why don't you worship Rama? Yes, these are YouTube commenters. Prabhupada calls them foolish people. They ask, how can you cook without fire? They say that, oh, you can. Then they say that, oh, everyone can cook without fire. We have microwaves. We just put them. They don't understand anything. So these foolish people ask, you are worshipping Krishna, you don't worship Rama? Actually, there is no difference between Krishna and Rama, but everyone has his preference. For instance, Hanuman was particularly devoted to Lord Ramachandra. The gopis are exclusively devoted to Lord Krishna. That does not make any real difference. The Lord appears in different forms, but in all cases, he is the Lord. Once Krishna left the gopis and changed into his four-handed Vishnu form, the gopis went out searching for Krishna, and when they saw that the four-handed Vishnu form, they did not offer much respect. They simply wanted to see Krishna. Actually, there is no difference between Krishna and Vishnu, but every devotee has a particular inclination. In the Vaishnava Sampradaya, some devotees worship Radha Krishna and others worship Sitaram and Lakshmi Narayana. Some also worship Rukmini Krishna. All of these are the same and all of the devotees are Vaishnavas. Whether one chants Hare Krishna or Hare Rama, it is not very important. Worship of the demigods, however, is not recommended. In any case, Bhakti Yoga begins with hearing Sravanam Kirtanam. After one has heard from the right source and is convinced, one will automatically perform Kirtan. Kirtan means glorification. Kirtan is preaching, glorifying, and speaking about the Lord. Parikshit Maharaj attained perfection simply by listening to Srimad Bhagavatam. That is Shravanam Kirtanam. Parikshit Maharaj was listening, and Sukadeva Goswami was performing Kirtan by describing the glories of the Lord. Prithu Maharaj simply worshipped the Lord, and Lakshmi Devi massaged Vishnu's lotus feet. Arjuna made friends with the Lord, and Hanuman carried out the orders of Lord Ramachandra. Bali Maharaj offered everything he had to the Lord in the form of Vamanadev, and after he had offered all his possessions, he offered his body, his head. There are many examples, but at the present moment, if we simply hear about Krishna, that is sufficient. God has given us ears, and we need only to go to a realized soul and hear about Krishna from him. This is the process recommended for this age because people are very fallen and are uneducated. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommends that we search out a devotee regardless of our position. There is no need to change our position. It is better to remain where we are and simply hear about Krishna. The Krishna consciousness movement is meant to give everybody an opportunity to hear about Krishna. Krishna is within everyone's heart, and as soon as he sees that one is interested in him, he helps. This is the beginning of bhakti. Even if one do not understand this philosophy, we will be purified if we hear what Krishna says. This is the whole process of Harinam Sankirtan. One doesn't even have to understand what this Hare Krishna is. Only one has to hear to be purified. Unless one is purified, one cannot understand God. There are many contaminations within the heart, and the people in this age are engaged in many sinful activities: illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling. The whole world is revolving about these things. Yet, despite this, we have to spread this Krishna consciousness movement. There may be many obstacles, but they can all be transcended by Krishna's mercy. We only have to be determined in our devotion. The rest will follow. This is the essence of Lord Kapila's instruction to his mother. Haribol. Oh, was that the ending? No, why did it end?
People,
Haribol. I wanted to hear more.
Punjab Prabhu. No, you can go to appendix. Punjab Prabhu is ready.
Yes, bro. Okay, let's read about Prabhupada also.
Oh, here you go. Are you ready to read Punjab Prabhu? Okay. All right. The author. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, appeared in this world in 1896 in Calcutta, India. He first met his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami, in Calcutta, 1922. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, a prominent religious scholar and the founder of the 64 Gaudiya Math Vedic Institutes, liked this educated young man and convinced him to uh, dedicate his life for teaching the Vedic knowledge. Srila Prabhupada became his student, and 11 years later, 1933, at Allahabad, he became his formally initiated disciple after 11 years after seeing him. After a first meeting in 1922, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur requested Srila Prabhupada to broadcast Vedic knowledge through the English language. In the years that followed, Srila Prabhupada wrote a commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, assisted the Gaudiya Math in its work, and in 1944, without assistance, started an English fortnight magazine edited by edited it, typed the manuscripts, and checked the galley proofs. He even distributed individual copies freely, and struggled to maintain the publication. Once begun, the magazine never stopped. It is now continued by his disciples in the West and is published in 12 languages. Recognized Srila Prabhupada's philosophical learning and devotion, the Gaudiya Vaishnava Society honored him in 1947 with the title Bhaktivedanta. In 1950, at the age of 54, Srila Prabhupada retired from married life, adopting the Vanaprastha retired order to devote more time to his studies and writing. Srila Prabhupada traveled to the holy city of Vrindavana, where he lived in very humble circumstances in a historic medieval temple of Radha Damodar, where he engaged in several years in deep study and writing. He accepted, wow, for 9 years. There, he engaged in several years of deep studies. He accepted the renounced order of life, sannyasa, in 1959. At Radha Damodar, Srila Prabhupada began work in his life on his life's masterpiece, a multi-volume translation of the commentary of the 18,000 verse Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Purana. He also wrote Easy Journey to Other Planets. After publishing 3 volumes of Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada came to the United States in 1965 to fulfill the mission of his, oh, to fulfill his mission, the mission of his spiritual master. Since that time, His Divine Grace had written over 60 volumes of authoritative translations, commentary, and summary studies of the philosophical and religious classics of India. In 1965, when he arrived by freighter in New York, Srila Prabhupada was practically penniless. It was after almost a year of great difficulty that he established the International Society of Krishna for Krishna Consciousness. In July of 1966, under his careful guidance, the society has grown within a decade to a worldwide confederation of more than 100 ashramas, schools, temples, institutes, and farm communities. In 1968, Srila Prabhupada created New Vrindavana, an experimental Vedic community in the hills of West Virginia, inspired by the success of New Vrindavana. Now a thriving farm community of more than 1,000 acres, its students have since founded several similar communities in the United States and abroad. In 1972, His Divine Grace introduced a Vedic system of primary and secondary education in the West by founding the Gurukula school in Dallas, Texas. Since then, under his supervision, his disciples have established children's schools throughout the United States and in the rest of the world. As of 1977, there are 20 Gurukula schools worldwide, with the principal educational center now located in Vrindavana, India. Srila Prabhupada has inspired the construction of several large international cultural centers in India. The center of Sri Tama, Mayapur in the West Bengal is the site for a planned spiritual city, an ambitious project for which construction will extend over the next decade. In the Vrindavana, India, is the magnificent Krishna Balarama Temple International Guest House. There are also major cultural and educational centers in Bombay and the holy city of Puri in Orissa. Other centers plan in dozen other important locations in the subcontinent. Srila Prabhupada's most significant contribution, however, is his books. Highly respected by academic communities by their authoritativeness, depth, and clarity. They are used as standard textbooks in numerous college courses. His writings have been translated into 23 languages. The Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, established in 1972, exclusively to publish the works of His Divine Grace, thus become the world's largest publisher of books in the field of Indian religion and philosophy. In in principal project, this ongoing publication of Srila Prabhupada's celebrated multi-volume translation of the commentary of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Hmm. In the past 10 years, in spite of his advanced age, Srila Prabhupada has circled the globe 12 times on the on lecture tours that have given him to six have taken him to 6 continents. In spite of such rigorous schedule, Srila Prabhupada continues to write prolifically. His writings constitute a uh, veritable library of Vedic philosophy, religion, literature, and culture.
Haribo.
Jai
Prabhupada
Srila
ki jai.
Prabhupada. Jai. Oh.
Teachings of Lord Kapila Dev ki jai.
Jai.
Haribo.
Oh wow. You know, sometimes I think Punjab Prabhu is like a Gandharva in disguise.
Yes, bro.
He sings very nicely, but he's just, you know, waiting until the time.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Now let's read the 6 Sastakam prayers. Cheto darpanamarjanam bhavamahadavagninirvapanam shreyah kairavachandrika vitaranam vidyavatu jivanam anandam pudivartanam pratipadam purnamritasvadanam sarvatma snapanam param vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam.
Nam Namakari Bahuda Nitisava Saktis Daktapitani Yamitas Manena Kala Itaji Shitabakipa Bhagavama Mapi Dordeva Miti Samyantanina Nuraga.
Trinadapi Nichena Tarorapi Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahri.
Punjabaru Najanamna Sundarim Kavitaba Jagadish Gamaya Mama Jamani Swarya Bhavita Bhakti Hetikitwaye.
Ainandatanuja Kinkaram Patitamam Vishame Bhavam Budau Kripa Tavapada Pankaja Stita Duli Sadrasam Vichintaya. Hare Krishna
Ainan
Prabhu Dandat Pranam Jai Shri Prabhu.
Evo Dimitri Prabhu, no one please accept my humble
Hare
obeisances.
Krishna, sorry I'm late. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Oh, Evo, man. Yeah, having your association is nice either way.
Yes, Prabhu.
Oh, Hari Bol.
Let's see here. Nayanam Galat Ashrutaria. But then get Garuda Griha. Bulakani Tamba Bukata Tamanama Grihe Bhavishati.
Yugaitam nimeshana chakshusha pravrishayitam yayitam jagat sarvam govinda virahena me.
Aslishyavapadaratam pinashtuma madarshanan marmahatam karotu va yatha tata va vidatulam pato matprana na tastu saevana praha. Haribo.
Evo. Glory to Sri Krishna, Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtana movement is a prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious.
O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of your kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them.
One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respects to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly.
Oh, my Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth.
O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet.
O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name?
Oh, Govinda, feeling your separation, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing like from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence.
I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipable Lord unconditionally. Haribo.
Haribo, Sri
Haribo.
Sakam ki jai,
Jai.
Dev ki jai,
Jai.
Bhakti ki jai, Nityananda
Jai.
ki jai, Sri Krishna
Jai.
Mahaprabhu ki jai,
Jai.
Jai.
Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada ki jai,
Jai.
Srimati Tulasi Devi Maharani ki jai,
Jai.
Nitai Gaura Premanande, Hari Haribo.
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 Thank you so much,
Gandhar Prabhu ki jai.
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 Okay, so Dimitri Prabhu, now we finished teachings of Lord Kapila.
Oh no, I missed everything.
Yes, there
I
was,
just didn't not just notification because I was talking to Sridham Prabhu
yes, Prabhu. So what was the
concerning that question. I mean, how Gaurkisar Das Babaji authorized Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur. I mean, it's a silly argument to say it like that. It means you challenge the whole parampara. I mean, let us double check the whole parampara and whether Vyasadeva was authorized by his spiritual master Narada Muni or not. I mean, it's complete nonsense.
Yes, Prabhu. And Prabhupada was asked this once, and that did your guru authorize you? And Prabhupada said that he answered that it's not your business. That this is so,
Yes.
that this is so cheap thing that I need to discuss it with you.
Wow, I need to find that one to share with him and put in an end.
I was trying to search that for you, but I couldn't find it. But this has been shown. It was some lady that was asking it.
Yeah, actually, I remember that.
Word is there.
Because, I was about to make some research maybe through Tatvait Prabhu Ritvik series.
But I tried to search this, but this, because Google search gives this first, that it's not cheap thing to go to Krishna.
You remember once I shared a Russian class where Sundar Gopal Prabhu spoke about